Welcome back to Boilers and Beyond. I'm Jordan Jones. The 2024 season came to an end for Purdue on Monday night as the Boilermakers fell 75-60 to UConn in the national championship game. We're here today to break down the Final Four, the national championship game, some thoughts on the season that was just a terrific season for Purdue, a season that Purdue needed, Purdue's fans needed, that was long overdue for Purdue. Going to talk about the season that was, talk about the weekend that was, some big picture thoughts, a little bit of a look ahead to the future. Lots to talk about here today. If you don't already, follow the show on Twitter, @BoilersBeyond. Again, the season's over, but as you know, there's no off season on this show. We'll be coming to you all summer long. We'll be talking Purdue basketball. We'll be talking Purdue football. We'll be talking whatever you want to talk about with Purdue. Send over ideas, things you want me to talk about on Twitter, @BoilersBeyond. You're always welcome to email the show, boilersandbeyondpod@gmail.com. And be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss a thing. Anywhere you get your podcasts, we're there. Be sure to subscribe. In the Final Four, Purdue 63, NC State 50 in the national championship game, UConn 75, Purdue 60. And, you know, as I was walking back to my hotel on Monday night, as I record this here late Tuesday, been a long day of travel, if I'm a little groggy here. But, you know, as I was walking back to my hotel, I was thinking a little bit, this is life in the NCAA tournament. This was kind of the NCAA tournament encapsulated pretty well. Purdue got some bracket luck to get an 11 seed in the Final Four. Purdue didn't necessarily need luck. Purdue had, played a really daunting slate in the Midwest region. Purdue got a solid 8-9 matchup with Utah State, a formidable opponent in Gonzaga in the Sweet 16, albeit not one of Gonzaga's top teams in recent memory, but still a strong opponent. Purdue got a very good opponent in Tennessee in the Elite Eight, but sometimes in the NCAA tournament, you get a little lucky, and sometimes Purdue's luck hasn't worked out for it in recent memory. This time it kind of did. Purdue got an 11 seed, and that's not to take anything away from NC State per se. It earned its way to Phoenix. It won the the ACC tournament 5 games in 5 days, and then it won the South region. It won 4 games there. So it came in on a 9-game win streak. But there was a very real possibility that what happened in that game was going to happen, and that was NC State came down to earth a little bit. NC State looked like a team that lost 15 games. Purdue did not play well in that game. Purdue did not play very well. Purdue turned the ball over 16 times, which is a little bit exaggerated of a stat because Purdue did have 2 or 3 shot clock violations toward the end that count as turnovers. So that number was probably more like 13. But Purdue turned it over a number of times in the first half that kept that game a game. It still led by 20 late. It was 63-43. NC State closes on a 7-0 run. Purdue won that game comfortably without playing well at all. If Purdue played well in that game, Purdue wins that thing by 30 easily. DJ Burns was a national sensation, and he deserved all the headlines, all the praise that was coming his way because he'd been terrific for them. But he wasn't ready for Zach Edey. And you kind of got that vibe from his press conferences and just from everything he had said. And, he was enjoying it, no doubt. But he wasn't ready for Zach Edey. And he didn't do a whole lot in the game. DJ Horn got going a little bit for NC State, but he didn't do, he wasn't enough. And the rest of that roster resembles a team that lost 14 games in the regular season much more than a roster that was in the Final Four. Things came back to earth for them a little bit, and Purdue just steamrolled through them, despite not playing particularly well. So Purdue got a little luck there. because you do in the NCAA tournament sometimes. Then Purdue got the best team in the country on Monday, a dominant force in UConn. Purdue was going to have to play a really good game to win that. You knew that going in. I had said to some folks after the game on Saturday, if Purdue plays the way it did Saturday, it was really going to have a struggle with UConn. I mean, it was going to have a long day. And Purdue played better. Purdue played better than it did on Saturday, but UConn was able to do what no team had been able to do to Purdue yet, really over the last couple of years, and that is play Zach Edey one-on-one, focus on shutting everyone else on Purdue's roster down, and make Zach Edey beat you by, in this case, scoring 50. Zach Edey had 37 points, and it wasn't near enough for Purdue to win because UConn was so effective at shutting down everything else. It's what Tom Izzo has tried to do for 2 years now. Did it 4 times to Zach Edey and just got eviscerated every time. Only 2 of those games were really super close. Others have unsuccessfully tried it too. The difference is this. Donovan Clingan was able to make Edey just inefficient enough that UConn could get a little separation, and then at that point, Purdue's playing catch-up without the 3-point line, and it's, to help it catch up. UConn's a great team. There's nothing else to say. UConn has athletes on the perimeter that are long that were able to completely run Purdue off the 3-point line. Purdue finishes the game 1 of 7 from 3, but there weren't good looks that Purdue was passing up from 3 for the most part. They just weren't getting them. UConn's a really good defensive team. It finishes the season number 4 in adjusted defensive efficiency on KenPom. That's a tremendous, tremendous defensive team. It does a lot of really good stuff with Donovan Clingan, who certainly impacted Purdue's ability to get to the basket. And when Purdue doesn't have that, and it doesn't have guys getting open for 3, it's difficult to pass out from down low. It's difficult to generate good looks from drive and kick stuff. Purdue's ball screen stuff wasn't as effective because Clingan is a force down there. Purdue still got plenty of stuff going for Zach Edey, but Purdue couldn't get stuff going for the rest of the team. And that's something that not many teams can do. It's why UConn has won this thing 2 years in a row and dominated its way there. UConn's won every game in the last 2 NCAA tournaments by 13 points or more. That doesn't happen. Dan Hurley, like him or not, and I don't, some of his antics aren't the most likable things. I'm fully with you there. But he's right when he said that UConn's made a hard tournament look easy. UConn has, and that's not normal. That's not normal at all. I know some of the talk is, Purdue's perimeter players weren't good enough, and on that night, that's certainly the case, but that's a real credit to what UConn was able to do, because that game plan, that scouting report was tremendous. UConn did everything right in that game, and Purdue just simply didn't have enough answers. And sometimes that happens when you run in to the best team in the country. UConn finishes 37-3. That's the second most wins for a national champion ever. That's insane. That's really, really, really good. Purdue tried a lot of different things. Miles Colvin got more minutes. Camden Heide got more minutes. Purdue threw together a little trap at one point, something Purdue doesn't do. Purdue tried a lot. UConn was just too good. That program at UConn is kind of a machine right now. I don't know where it's going to go after this. They're going to lose some players. Obviously, Clingan's going to be gone. Cam Spencer, Tristan Newton, Stephon Castle's probably going to be gone. They'll lose a lot, but what Dan Hurley's building there is a real juggernaut in college basketball right now. That's a really good team. It is what it is. You know, if you want to be disappointed by the way the season ended, I get it. It is I don't want to say underwhelming, but it's a bummer to get to that point. And, you know, really for most of the second half, you kind of knew Purdue wasn't going to win that thing. Purdue had a point where it's 23-23 and you're feeling all right. Purdue was working for everything it had. Or even early on, UConn was getting what it wanted on offense a lot more easily than Purdue was. Zach Edey was unreal in the first half. He was unreal in the second half too. But there was a stretch in the first half where Edey was downright remarkable. But it wasn't enough to get Purdue a lead. And then Purdue had cut it. God, I'm trying to think live now. 32-30 maybe? It was a 2-point game at one point with a couple minutes to go before half. And you thought maybe Purdue could end the half on a run, maybe take a lead into the break and have a shot. The half ended UConn's way, and then Purdue needed a really hot start to the second half. It didn't get it. It is what it is. Purdue represented itself really well. Purdue fought hard. Purdue didn't go full surrender. Purdue kept fighting till the end, and there's something to be said for that. You look at big picture here, Purdue earned redemption from last year's ending. I don't think Purdue needed a national championship to validate itself. I think the Final Four was kind of that validation because that's the pinnacle of college basketball. It's the Final Four. Obviously, winning championships is great, and I'm by no means saying that, you know, a championship wouldn't have been the ultimate redemption, but Purdue redeemed itself. Purdue showed that it legitimately belongs as one of the nation's top teams, that it's established itself as one of the nation's top programs, and there's a lot to be said for that. That was a really good showing for Purdue out in Phoenix, even though it didn't end in the Disney movie classic, you know, the team gets the ultimate, 16 seed loss to a national championship the way Virginia did a few years ago. It was a tremendous atmosphere out there. I was fortunate enough to be out there. It was so cool. You walk into State Farm Stadium on Monday, and the entire concourse was Purdue fans chanting "Let's go Boilers," chanting "Boiler up," chanting "Go Boilers go." I've never seen anything like that at something so far away from West Lafayette, Indiana, at an event like that where you have another really strong program, a blue blood program of college basketball. Purdue fans took that place over. You could see it on Saturday, where Purdue definitely had the most number of fans there. And it was really cool to see. It really was. It was a special moment. You know, you saw it. Sunday, I'm walking around Phoenix, and, in that Westgate area by the stadium, I go to 5 or 6 different shops, and they don't have a single piece of Purdue merchandise that, they've got the UConn shirts, they've got the NC State shirts, they've got the Bama shirts, they've got the hats. All the Purdue stuff was sold out. Purdue fans took that place over. It was unbelievable. Before the game Saturday, it felt in that area that every restaurant that didn't designate itself as the official bar for an opposing school was all Purdue people. I saw tons of old Purdue players, people I recognized, from the paint crew from years past. So many Purdue people out there. Really, really cool to see. It was awesome. Purdue fans deserved that. Purdue fans absolutely did. And I'm not one of those that think that fans deserve everything all the time. Every fan base deserves happiness, for the most part. Most people are good in this world after all. But Purdue fans really deserved that. And to see Purdue fans get the long-awaited chance to be there and on that stage was awesome. It really was. It was a sight to see. Purdue wraps up what, probably is the best season in school history, certainly in recent memory. I can't claim to be an expert on the 1969 team that got to the championship game and lost to Lou Alcindor. I know it was a great team. I know Rick Mount was a great player. I know Billy Keller and some of those supporting cast guys were great. It's way past my time, so I don't know there. But Purdue finishes this year with a school record 34 wins. Again, more games are played now, but Purdue won 34 games. I think the previous record was 29 or 30. Purdue repeated as Big Ten champions. That felt like an inevitability all season, but it wasn't. And it was, but it wasn't. The Big Ten is still a good conference. There are still other good teams in the Big Ten. And Purdue made it look pretty easy to repeat as Big Ten champions. Purdue won it by multiple games for a second straight year, something Matt Painter's quick to remind you hasn't happened since Indiana in the 70s. Purdue won the Maui Invitational. And while no one closes the year thinking about the MTE they won back in November, that was a pretty stacked field Purdue went through. That was 2 Sweet 16 teams and an Elite 8 team that Purdue beat. And then it beat 2 of those teams again in the NCAA Tournament and almost, could have ran into Marquette in the Final Four again. Purdue reached the Final Four, first time since 1980. Purdue reached the national title game for the first time since 1969. This season was always going to be a pressure cooker. We've talked about this so many times on this podcast, going back to the start, that this season had the potential to be a long one for Purdue. And in some cases, it could have been a miserable one. It could have been one where, Purdue lost a few games it maybe shouldn't have, and then frustration mounted. But that never happened. That never happened at all. And that wasn't guaranteed. Purdue was laser focused throughout the NCAA tournament. Purdue didn't really celebrate much throughout the NCAA tournament. Outside of that Elite 8 win, Purdue didn't celebrate after beating NC State. Purdue didn't celebrate after beating Gonzaga or Utah State. Certainly not against Grambling. Purdue was locked in as can be. And that is a real testament to the players, to the coaching staff, because they did everything you could have wanted them to. I think a lot of narratives kind of died this season. I know folks down south will have their 5 banners to 0 argument, and you see it on Twitter and whatever. Purdue proved it can get to the Final Four. Purdue proved that an elite big man can get you there. Matt Painter proved that he could get to that point, which I think most people knew he would get there eventually, but he finally did. Matt Painter got there. And that was big for that narrative, for the subset that was not a believer that Matt Painter could do it. Purdue got there with guys who were under-recruited. Zach Edey was the 436th recruit in the nation or whatever. Braden Smith was a 3-star guard who committed to Purdue with no other high major offers. Trey Kaufman-Wren, Fletcher Lawyer, they had big-time offers, but it's not like this team had any McDonald's All-Americans on it. Didn't have any 5-star recruits. Lance Jones was a transfer from Southern Illinois, a very good player, but a transfer from the Missouri Valley. Purdue killed every narrative there was to kill about Purdue, and that, for Purdue folks, has to be pretty sweet. After the break here, we'll look ahead to what's next a little bit. Not going to be too deep of a look. That's what next week's podcast is for. That's what every podcast from here on out is for. Talk a little bit about what's next and where Purdue goes from here. First, this episode is brought to you by me. Yes, me. When I'm not watching sports, or more accurately, talking about them, I'm talking about insurance with the people of Indiana. As an agent with Indiana Farm Bureau Insurance, I want to help you protect what you've worked hard to achieve. From home and auto to life and business insurance, I'm here to help you. Give me a call at 317-692-7463 or email me at jordan.jones@infarmbureau.com, and let's protect you from life's everyday risks. So what's next for Purdue? Obviously, the biggest, and that's literally and figuratively, Zach Edey's Purdue career comes to an end. I thought it was cool. Purdue does lose the game. I was glad for Zach Edey that, the way that game went, he did get his chance at a little bit of a curtain call for Purdue fans. He got subbed out, with less than a minute to go. Purdue fans got to give him one last standing ovation, one that is more than well-earned. You can debate Rick Mount and Glenn Robinson and Zach Edey all you want as to who's the greatest of all time in Purdue history, and there's probably not a right answer to that. It's hard to compare eras. But Zach Edey leaves the school as the most decorated Boilermaker of all time and as the most improbable superstar I can possibly remember. He's the first two-time National Player of the Year in 40 years. He leaves Purdue as the all-time leading scorer and all-time leading rebounder. He leaves as a two-time Big Ten champion. He led Purdue to its first Final Four in 44 years. Just a tremendous, tremendous career for Zach Edey, and one that you really can't put into words. The story, the background, the way he did it, just a really, really special career and a special person who did that. Because obviously, I don't know Zach Edey personally well by any means, but everything you've seen from him, he's a really good dude. He represented Purdue really well. It's hard to ask for a better face of your team than Zach Edey. His run in the NCAA tournament won't be remembered like Carson Edwards was. It wasn't as flashy. It was more expected. But he absolutely dominated everyone in the NCAA tournament. I don't have his final stats in front of me, but I think he averaged 30 points a game in the tournament, if not really close to it. He rebounded like crazy. He put Purdue on his back in the Elite Eight, got him there, dominated at every round. He didn't win Final Four Most Outstanding Player. I get it. It goes to the best player on the team that wins it, but he was the most outstanding player in the Final Four and in the entire NCAA tournament. It's been an unreal career. I have no idea what's next for him in the NBA. I really don't. I don't know what to expect, but I've said it before and I'll maintain it. If there's not a place for Zach Edey in the NBA, it's not a product that I care to watch. Because Zach Edey is a tremendous basketball player, and that's where tremendous basketball players are supposed to go thrive. And if he can't do that there, I'm not interested in it. Purdue says goodbye to some serious role players, too. You look at Mason Gillis, the ultimate glue guy for Purdue, a real leader for Purdue over the last few years, an emotional leader, an on-the-court leader. He hit some really, really big shots this year at big moments when Purdue needed it. He was tremendous, a tremendous career for him, one that certainly had its ups and downs. He comes in off a bunch of injuries, fought through some injuries at Purdue. He's someone who's really going to be missed. He has become a fan favorite, certainly well-deserved, a great career for him. Ethan Morton departs Purdue as, a guy who saw his role diminish a lot this year. Matt Painter points to him all the time as a guy who sacrificed a lot. And, I never played basketball at that level. So I am saying this as an observer, but it can't be easy to go from starting 29 games last year on a team that won the Big Ten by 3 games and was a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament to this year not starting, to coming off the bench to ultimately not really playing in the NCAA tournament, minutes of substance. That's impressive. He was a guy who really was clearly bought into the team's success, and that you need those guys. You have 13 scholarships in college basketball, but you can't play 13 guys. You just can't. You need guys who are on scholarship, who are players, who are bought in and could play elsewhere and could start elsewhere, but guys who are just bought into helping the team win. I look back to that Minnesota game at Mackey Arena this year when the game absolutely flipped when he started shutting down Cam Christie. That was a plucky Minnesota team that was giving Purdue some problems, and Ethan Morton played a massive role in making sure Purdue didn't get tripped up there. That's just one anecdotal evidence point that has really stuck with me. Lance Jones was a wonderful addition for this year's roster. The transfer portal's tricky. Don't ever think that the transfer portal is something you're going to bat 1,000 in. It's not. There are countless programs out there who thought they were going really all in on this year by bringing in a bunch of transfers, and they just flopped, and it didn't work. Guys didn't mesh. It just didn't work for whatever reason at so many places across the nation this year. Lance Jones was the exact opposite of that. His skill set certainly helped fill a void. He could knock down some threes. He could make some plays off the bounce. He could defend. His demeanor really helped too. He helped make this team one that, didn't get too caught up by the pressure that was on it. One that, seemed to enjoy some of the pressure that was on it. He played a great role for Purdue. He never once backed down. He never once lacked confidence. And at times that made you a little worried. The Tennessee game's a great example. He misses a couple threes badly early on and was struggling. But then late in the game, 2 minutes to go, he cans a three to put Purdue up 6, and that shot kind of won Purdue the Elite Eight, got Purdue to the Final Four. That shot doesn't go in, or more accurately, that shot doesn't get taken, and who knows how that game ends up. His demeanor helped himself become a massive fan favorite. It's hard to have a one-year grad transfer that just endears himself to the fan base the way he did. It's hard to imagine someone who played for a program for 1 year as a grad transfer becoming more beloved than he has been. Purdue's going to welcome in 6 new guys over the summer. The roster is going to turn over pretty significantly. You're still going to have your core. You still have Braden Smith, Fletcher Lawyer, Trey Kaufman-Wren, Colvin, Heidi, First. Those guys are still around. But you're bringing in Cannon Catchings, Jakari Harris, CJ Cox, Jack Benter, Raleigh Burgess, Daniel Jacobson. 6 freshmen in one class is kind of unheard of these days. But Purdue is very committed to developing its program through the high school ranks, to building it that way, supplementing through the portal here and there. But that's Purdue's bread and butter. And right now, it's really hard to criticize that because for Purdue, it's working really, really well. Purdue does sit at 14 scholarships accounted for next year. One of those will have to free up. Purdue's got to be at 13 by the start of the season. We'll keep our eyes and ears peeled for news on that. I don't anticipate anything tomorrow, but that's something to monitor moving forward. I don't do speculation on transfers or anything like that really on this show. I don't think that's fair to players, but something we'll keep an eye on. There's a lot still to come. I've got some plans for episodes in the coming weeks to look back on this season. A tremendous, tremendous year for Purdue basketball. A banner year in more ways than one. There are 3 banners going up from this season. One's already up with Zach Edey. A Big Ten Champions banner will go up. Purdue's 26th and Purdue's 3rd Final Four banner will go up this year. So Just an unbelievable year. At some point, we'll check in on Purdue football post-spring as well. That's really fallen under the radar, but Purdue's going through spring practices. Purdue's spring game is this Saturday. So I'm not going to be able to get there in person. Certainly I'll be watching it on BTN and have some thoughts at some point, but we'll keep an eye on Purdue football too. Thank you all for listening this year. This was the most listened to season so far of this podcast. This is my 4th season doing this show. So next year will be my first year without Zach Edey. So there you go. But I appreciate all of you who have listened to this, who have dealt with me and my ramblings all season. You guys are the best. It's so fun to interact with you all and get messages and emails. And, those of you I've had the privilege to meet in person, come up and say hi at stuff like the Final Four, games at Mackey. Really cool. You guys are the best. I appreciate it. If you got friends who don't listen to the show and love Purdue sports, send them the show link. I'm always loving to grow this audience and just get to interact with more folks because, as we saw this week, Purdue's got a pretty special fan base and a lot of really, really good people who call themselves Boilermakers. It's been a pleasure. I look forward to what's to come here in the coming weeks and months as we head into the summer. As I said, we do get into a little bit of a thin time with programming in the summer, so send over things you want me to talk about. The mailbag's always open. Send in questions, basketball, what's next, football, anything. We'll talk about it. You can send those in on Twitter @BoilersBeyond or email them to me, boilersandbeyondpod@gmail.com. That's all I've got for today, though. Again, thank you for listening. Thank you for everything over the season. I look forward to another fun one next year. Talk to you guys soon. Until then, take care.